Welcome back to Mysterious Galaxies. I'm Todd, and this is the second time I've tried to record this video because the first time I spilled coffee all over myself. And today, I'm excited to revisit a book I've had on my shelf for the better part of 2 decades, When Gravity Fails by George Alec Effinger. If you haven't heard of this book or the series it's a part of, you're not alone. Whenever I come across cyberpunk discussions, this book is hardly ever mentioned. It's well within the shadow of Neuromancer, Snow Crash, and Altered Carbon. And while those books, they deserve their place in the spotlight, When Gravity Fails is no slouch and brings a lot to the table. Published in 1987, this novel imagines a future so vividly plausible that it feels almost prophetic, even when read decades after publication. It's a gritty blend of noir, cyberpunk, and cultural exploration set in an unnamed North African city that's a dangerous, electrifying character in its own right. This is a world of neural modifications, where personality and skill sets can be swapped in and out like apps on our phone. It's a future that feels eerily close, yet it's layered with a cultural texture that sets it apart from the typical cyberpunk fare. It's no surprise that Effinger, who lived in the French Quarter of New Orleans, drew inspiration from its vibrant, gritty atmosphere. The result? A novel that's as much about the people and the place as it is about the plot. The story follows Mourid Aldrin. And I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly. He's a small-time hustler turned reluctant private investigator in a world transformed by technological augmentation. Mourid has always prided himself on remaining unmodified, a rarity in a society where most people use moddies to swap personalities or acquire skills, and daddies to enhance their abilities. He values his independence, sense of self, and ability to navigate the murky waters of the ever-dangerous and electrifying Budayin. Mourid's life takes a dark turn when a series of gruesome murders hits the Budayin. See, the killings, they have a chilling connection to the same personality mods that Mourid has always avoided, and his involvement quickly becomes unavoidable. To solve the mystery and survive, Mourid is forced to make a deal with Friedlander Bey, a 200-year-old powerful and enigmatic crime lord known as Papa. This deal, though, it comes with a cost. Mourid must undergo the very modifications he despises, throwing his core beliefs and personal identity into crisis. But this isn't just a murder mystery. Effinger weaves a story about self-discovery and moral compromise first and foremost. Mourid's journey through the Budayin is as much an exploration of his own character as it is of the city's dark underbelly. See, the Budayin is a vibrant, dangerous character. A labyrinth of narrow streets, flickering neon signs, seedy clubs, and shadowy figures. It's a place where vice and survival intermingle, where the walls keep the chaos contained, and where every corner holds both opportunity and peril. Effinger's choice of setting is key to the novel's distinctiveness. The Budayin is steeped in Middle Eastern culture with its mix of Islamic tradition and futuristic decadence, providing a unique lens for the cyberpunk genre. Inspired in part by the French Quarter of New Orleans, where Effinger lived, the Budayin combines the familiar with the alien, grounding the speculative elements in a world that feels lived in and authentic. The story is packed with layers of meaning. It delves into how technology can alter not just society, but the individual, raising questions about autonomy, morality, and the essence of selfhood. It also explores cultural intersections, painting a future where Western and Islamic traditions collide and coexist in fascinating, yet sometimes jarring ways. Through Mourid's eyes, we see a world where technological progress offers both liberation and enslavement, and where every choice has a cost. Effinger doesn't just tell a story, he crafts an experience. The Budayin, it pulses with life, and Mourid's first-person narration invites readers to feel every punch, hear every whisper, and question every motive. It's a story that moves with the rhythm of a noir thriller, but its heart beats with the deeper questions of what it means to be human in a world increasingly defined by the machines we create. Effinger's writing is nothing short of masterful. It's a blend of sharp prose, immersive world-building, and deeply resonant themes. From the very first paragraph, the rhythm of his sentences hooks you, as does the vivid imagery and palpable tension of the Budayin. Effinger's writing on the word and the sentence level is fantastic. Let me read the first paragraph, and you'll see what I mean. Chiriga's nightclub was right in the middle of the Budayin, 8 blocks from the Eastern Gate, 8 blocks from the cemetery. It was handy to have the graveyard so close at hand. The Boudin was a dangerous place and everyone knew it. That's why there was a wall around 3 sides. Travelers were warned away from the Boudin, but they came anyway. They'd heard about it all their lives, and they were damned if they were going home without seeing it for themselves. Most of them came in the eastern gate and they started up the street curiously. They'd begin to get a little edgy after 2 or 3 blocks, and they'd find a place to sit and have a drink or eat a pill or two. After that, they'd hurry back the way they'd come and count themselves lucky to get back to the hotel. A few weren't so lucky and stayed behind in the cemetery. Like I said, it was a very conveniently located cemetery and saved trouble all around. Effinger knows exactly how to set a scene, whether it's the neon-lit alleys of a dangerous nightclub district or the intimate turmoil inside Mourid Aldrin's mind. Every word feels intentional, every description evocative. However, what truly sets When Gravity Fails apart is how it subverts the conventions of both cyberpunk and noir. This isn't just another story about a futuristic dystopia dominated by faceless corporations or tech-savvy hackers. In fact, the absence of computers and sprawling megacorporations is striking, especially for a novel touted as a classic of cyberpunk. Instead, Effinger focuses on people, their choices, their flaws, their identities, and creates a world that feels tangibly human despite its futuristic trappings. The Boudin, with its gritty charm and dangerous allure, becomes as much a character as Mourid himself. Effinger's portrayal of this North African-inspired locale brims with authenticity, offering a setting that feels lived in, chaotic, and real. It's an intoxicating mix of cultures, where tradition clashes with technology, and survival demands compromise. It's a far cry from the usual urban jungles of cyberpunk, and it's all the more compelling for it. Effinger's characters are equally memorable. Mourid is a fascinating protagonist, not the hard-boiled detective you might expect, but a deeply flawed, reluctant anti-hero. His aversion to the Mahdi culture that defines his world makes him an outsider, even as he's forced to embrace it. His journey is as much about solving a mystery as confronting his beliefs, autonomy, and identity. Effinger crafts Mourid using complexity and nuance, giving us a protagonist who feels real, vulnerable, and at times painfully relatable. Thematically, the novel digs deep. Effinger examines the consequences of technology with a nuanced lens, asking how it reshapes identity, morality, and human connection. The concept of Mahdi's, plug-and-play personality modules, is a brilliant narrative device that raises profound questions about autonomy and authenticity. What does it mean to be yourself when you can be anyone? Where do you draw the line between augmentation and erasure? Of course, When Gravity Fails is not without its challenges. Effinger doesn't shy away from the darker corners of the Boudin, and his exploration of violence, vice, and exploitation can be unsettling. But his unflinching approach is part of the novel's brilliance. Effinger forces readers to grapple with the same moral ambiguities and harsh realities that Mourid faces. It's uncomfortable at times, but it's also what makes the book so compelling and thought-provoking. His ability to weave rich, immersive storytelling with profound philosophical questions makes this novel stick with you. It's a rare blend of style, substance, and soul, and it stands as a testament to what speculative fiction can achieve when it dares to explore the messy, complicated terrain of the human condition. I really like this novel, but it's not without its challenges. And for some readers, those challenges might be deal breakers. One of the most significant issues lies in its treatment of women, both cisgender and transgender, and the way that Mourid interacts with them. To the novel's credit, Effinger builds a world where trans men and women are seamlessly integrated into society. The technology to change one's gender is as common as any other augmentation, and the characters in the Boudin accept it without judgment or prejudice. In many ways, this is progressive for a book that was written in 1987. Especially given how trans issues are still perceived today. Effinger deserves recognition for envisioning a society where gender fluidity is normalized and treated as a personal choice rather than a societal taboo. That said, the execution can be uncomfortable. Mourid's narration frequently objectifies women in ways that reflect his own flaws as a character, but can be grating or even off-putting to modern readers. His casual references to jamming women, essentially treating every sexual relationship as a conquest, are steeped in a kind of machismo that hasn't aged well. Merid, he's a pretty crappy person, and he's written as such. He's deeply flawed and chauvinistic, and I wouldn't be surprised if he alienates readers who are sensitive to the objectification of women. With that said, if you're tired of traditional cyberpunk, When Gravity Fails might just be what you're looking for. It takes the genre's hallmarks, futuristic technology, gritty urban setting, and moral ambiguity, and reframes them in a way that still feels fresh nearly 40 years after its first publication. This isn't the neon-lit dystopia dominated by megacorporations and hackers that many associate with cyberpunk. Instead, it's a deeply personal, culturally rich narrative that stands apart in its own originality. Science fiction is at its best when it asks profound questions and challenges our understanding of the world around us. And When Gravity Fails does that exceptionally well. Perhaps it's more subtle than others, but below the surface, Effinger provokes us to think about the intersection of humanity and technology, exploring themes of identity and autonomy with remarkable depth. When Gravity Fails isn't just a cyberpunk novel. It raises prescient concerns nearly 40 years ahead of its time. If you can make it past some of the rough edges, it's a book that will challenge, unsettle, and make you reconsider our reliance on technology. Sadly, at 55 years old, and after years of struggling with complicated health issues, Effinger died before finishing the series. We're left with 3 novels and a short story collection. While the sequels, A Fire in the Sun and The Exile Kiss, are worth a read in their own right, When Gravity Fails stands alone beautifully, offering a complete, unforgettable experience. This book reminds us that sometimes the most fascinating futures aren't the ones that feel the farthest away, but the ones that seem like they could be just around the corner. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, family, and even your enemies. Just nobody with a modification that's going to make them come kill me. And of course, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because every subscriber inches me one step closer to taking over the galaxies. Until next time, take care, keep reading, and I'll see you in the next one.